Hello, everybody, and good afternoon from Bright Spot, based in Dallas, Texas. Beautiful winter day here. I hope it's nice where all of you are today. We've got this webinar planned for a 30-minute time slot, trying to go a little quicker, fast-paced. We know everybody's busy here in January. We have compiled our list of the top 5 incentive travel facts and the top 5 incentive travel to-dos based on all the research that we've read and curated from throughout 2017. I'd like to say at the outset that we will welcome questions along the way. You should see a chat window, a little chat bubble on the right-hand side of your screen. Feel free to enter your questions along the way. We will try to address them if we're able, or for sure at the end we have a little time carved out for Q&A. The other thing we'd like to say up front is we'd like to thank a good partner of ours, Maui Jim Sunglasses, who has donated a gift card that we will do a drawing for all those that attend the webinar today. So for one lucky person attending this call today, we're going to make their day. They're going to get a beautiful pair of Maui Jim sunglasses of their choosing. I know I've got a whole drawer full of about 5 or 6 pairs, probably like you, Michael, and they never get old. So with that, we will start. We're going to start advancing along here. So this is Mike May. I'm president of Bright Spot, and I am also the 2018 chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Incentive Research Foundation, which does some of the very best research in this industry on incentive travel, motivational meetings, and non-cash rewards. So I see a lot of this research up close. My colleague, Michael Butler, is here, who serves with SITE. So Michael, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, Michael Butler here, Director of Strategic Accounts at Bright Spot. Also sit on the Research and Education Committee with the SITE Foundation, the research arm of SITE Global. So I bring some information from that seat today. I want to welcome all the guests, as you did, Michael. We appreciate your time with us today. And as we say in the Northeast, let's get this party started. So you're probably not going to be surprised. Our number one topic off the top here is optimism is high, despite uncertainty around the world with events and the threat of the continual threat of terrorism. You know, in the macro level, we have impressive double-digit economic growth in U.S. stock markets. It certainly is a nice thing to watch our personal 401k accounts grow at those rates. And then there's the recent tax reform laws that just now starting to show their effect with large enterprises. News yesterday I read Starbucks was in the news for doling out employee raises, stock, and expanded benefits thanks to the corporate tax cut savings. Disney, JP Morgan, others announcing similar type of stuff to support this indice here. You know, there's more money in the supply chain, Mike, and this translates well for our meetings and incentives industry, as this trend will likely continue for the foreseeable future. I think we both agree on that. I think of other recent news this week where Steve Wynn announced he's building his 4th hotel in Vegas along the Strip with some kind of fancy oasis in the desert. A vote of confidence in a city still coping with lower attendance since that October 1 tragic event there. You know, then there's Austin down the road here from where we sit in North Texas. Probably not on any of your map 4 or 5 years ago as a meeting or incentive top destination, yet they've added over 3,000 rooms with a new Kimpton, which I might mention later on, next to the trendy Rainey Street district, and also a Fairmont and JW Marriott downtown adjacent to the convention center. You know, Austin, Nashville's another that I think of. We've seen optimism rising in these ways and others. And what is it you like to say, Mike? A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes.
I think that's what we're experiencing. It's nice to see it having such a positive effect on our industry.
Let's see. And for our audience, you'll notice in the lower left, in each of these slides, we've indicated the source. This first finding came from SITE, and it came from something called the SITE Index. Michael, maybe quickly give them a sense of the basis of SITE Index if you're...
Yeah, I will. This SITE Index was released last October. It's for 2018. was completed for the second year along with the help of J.D. Powers, a robust name in the research space. Also worth mentioning, Mike, is we had about 600 respondents in over 70 countries.
Good. So, we got a little bit of Laurel and Hardy here. So Mike brings the site Texas, and I bring the IRF side. So coincidentally, and it makes perfect sense, IRF documented an overall optimism in the incentive travel industry as well. Last year, they released a proprietary measure that they called Net Optimism Score. At the end of last year, it was at 44%. If you're familiar with the popular Net Promoter Score that measures customer satisfaction, this is computed similarly, where it takes the number of people that give a positive response, subtracts the number that give a negative response. The difference in those two percentages is what we call the Net Optimism Score. So it makes perfect sense, but I think there's a validation that two separate studies both reported optimism. So with all of these, we've wanted to give an actionable takeaway. So our to-do here for everybody is just be optimistic. Optimism has a way of being a self-fulfilling prophecy in business. I think we all see that when we are optimism, good things tend to happen, and we tend to work a little harder and drive those results. So our encouragement here, based on this first statistic, would be optimistic.
Great. Our second point, incentive travel budgets are growing. I know all our ears are probably perking up to this one. Nearly half of buyers reported an increase in their overall incentive travel budgets through that site index study led by corporate users reporting an average spend of $5,000. So an interesting kind of subnote there that corporate is driving this increase. Average spend increased over last year, and the number of people eligible for these trips have increased too. In fact, in the study, we reported a 3-year trend now showing that 50% or more who buy incentive travel services plan to increase the number of people who are eligible for awards. This may be a key takeaway for some of you. It's good to know because this can become a retention mechanism for your company. Incentive travel and amount of spend and eligible employees. From a retention standpoint, something every company's looking at these days with unemployment so low, you don't want your top performers drawn to competitors who are offering bigger and better incentive trips as part of their comp package. They'll stay put if the trip has the value that they're looking for. So feel free to use this argument when requisitioning more money for your next trip. So this is good news. Incentive travel budgets grow, although it's important to keep in mind that these are averages.
Yeah. Great. I noticed we had one question come in that do these numbers include air travel? And yes, they do. So these would be turnkey, everything, air travel, hotel, event costs, activity costs, ground transportation. So IRF drilled down a little more granular here, and this chart's a little busier. I think the important information is at the top of the slide. It says average per person has increased 4 to 5% over the last 3 years. The average for 2017 was $39.15, which exactly aligns with what site had of coming out with a $4,000 average. If you look at the 2017 graph, on the far right, you see that 31% are above 4,000 and 20% are above 5. So over half are even above this measure, which I think is good. Michael shared this slide with one of his customers who came back and said, hey, what are we doing wrong? Because we're spending $6,000 per person. So you want to comment on that, Michael?
Yeah, it's always interesting when independent research unveils similar findings. We're seeing that here, a cautionary tale that you're alluding to, Mike. So the client said, Michael, what are we doing? We're the average is just up to 4,000. We've been spending $6,200 a person. I said, great point, but you're doing a 4 or 5 night trip to exotic destinations. This last year they were at the St. Regis in Princeville, Kauai. Next year they're going to Turks and Caicos, a high-end Caribbean destination for their global channel partners who themselves are well-traveled multi-million-dollar business owners from around the world. So, about 80% of his audience is European or Asian, higher air component there for sure. So again, keep in mind, this is an average, and his 6,000 per person trip is offset by maybe a 2-night US trip for call center employees who are making $50,000, $60,000 a year, whereby the company's spending about $2,000 per person. Ultimately, you'll want to match the investment to the target audience.
Yeah. I think that's really important, Michael. I think sometimes there's a tendency of us on all the meeting planner sides to go to maybe the newest property that just opened, and we get excited and we want to recommend it for everybody. But it may be that a Four Seasons that just opened somewhere makes sense for a certain audience. Maybe a 4-star hotel in another domestic destination makes sense for somebody else. So we're a big proponent of starting with the audience and making sure we match to that.
Excellent. As a friend of mine would say, you know him. Number next. But for us, it's number 3. So budgets have increased, yet buyers are looking to reduce costs. You might be, as I was, looking at this, it's a bit paradoxical, but the number of buyers taking steps to reduce costs has been increasing every year. I think it's from 73 to 78 to 80% in 2017. I'm referencing the site index study again. One example of this is more buyers are choosing less expensive destinations to manage costs of incentive travel programs and less expensive amenities. Local is a trend, so providing gifting experiences sourced locally can eliminate things like customs and shipping costs, and it's a good example of how we're seeing this trend in some of our programs. For sellers, this is really positioned to sellers, Mike. Additional things included for the same price may include things like complimentary internet upgrades on rooms or turn down gifts from the hotel, additional upgrade welcome amenities for the entire group welcome cocktail reception, dry snacks on transfers, welcome drinks, beach amenities, more upgrades to name a few. Sellers are adding additional value through greater creative and innovative event design. It's being demanded, and I think they're doing a fine job of it.
Well, again, coincidentally, IRF in its Outlook study reported something very similar. It reported that 60% of all planners and buyers said costs were increasing faster than budgets. So definitely aligns with what Michael just shared. And then we also had this stat from the American Express Global Meetings Forecast that I think gives us all some good quantitative data to be able to share inside our organization, that hotel room rates have increased 5% a year for the last 3 years. They're forecasted to increase 3% this year, and F&B is rising too. And I just heard Michael Dominguez, who's VP of Sales at MGM Grand, speak, who gives one of the best state of the hotel industry speeches anywhere in our industry. If you ever have a chance to hear him, I highly encourage it. But he shared a stat that for the last 7 years, the growth in demand by groups has exceeded the growth in supply of new development. So that's driving up these costs. I think all planners on this call are dealing with that. And our to-do here would be, we say this tongue in cheek, to tell Tight Pockets, the CFO, that you need more money. And those last the last slides that had some good quantitative data would be good to have available as you try to justify more budget requests. We'll be happy to share these slides if anybody would like as well. So let's see, Michael, do you want to introduce slide research finding 4?
Yeah, greater investments in technology, production costs, advanced technology, certainly Wi-Fi and bandwidth and other technology features are definitely driving increased budgets. Technology is becoming an increasingly more important part of programs, whether it's communications, engagements, or operations. This is probably one area where we're able to provide cost savings through automation that technology provides in things like maybe our last point here, the app in the mobile application. So yeah, did you have anything to add on technology?
I think that's a great point. We've, our web developers and IT technicians here have created all the API interfaces that transition data from our event registration site to the app platform. We've designated Quick Mobile as our preferred supplier, but we've also used Double Dutch and Crowd Compass. There's several good, but I think our key point is we're seeing that we've reached that tipping point of going from nice to have to must have.
Yeah, and that leads us to our to-do on this point, Mike, is add an event app or make it better. There's advancements in the social features through app if you haven't looked at it in a while. Certainly driving more engagement through social as it's still atop everybody's mind and at the tip of everybody's finger with their smartphone in hand. A better way to socialize those pictures that are so important and lasting, have long-lasting effect long after the event's ended.
Great way to use the attendees and see their headshots and see that person, locate that person in a reception that you want to go network with. Or we've had a lot of success using the push messaging feature to drive reminders of when the next event is, what the attire is. So definitely event apps are here to stay and a great engagement tool. Let's see, next one here is a term we've made up that we call Matchmaking Disconnect. So what this is we see on the hotel side, as we've alluded, occupancy is increasing, their room rates are increasing. That's being fueled by a trifecta of group demand, transient business demand, and leisure travel. So with all of those up and new construction lagging behind that, what we're seeing is an increase in lead times to source high quality product hotels, to get the best rates and get our clients what they need. So we're seeing that we need lead times grow. Alternatively, it feels like the corporate decision cycle is mismatched and doesn't equal that they're slower. We work with a lot of public companies. As we know, public companies live on a quarter-to-quarter treadmill. And they're focused now on calendar Q1 and getting them to make a decision about where they want to go next Q1 for an incentive trip can be very difficult. But if we're not proactive, options shrink and costs go up.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say, at least from my small book of business in the industry, that I'm starting to see it come back. I was at dinner last night with a client. We're looking at 2020, and we're also finding that locations are not available in 2020. So, you see the announcement I mentioned earlier with the $1.5 billion project with Wynn in Vegas on the Vegas Strip. I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, good. So our actionable to do here is start earlier, or if you don't start earlier, expect to pay more and be prepared to accept less options. And let's see, one of our philosophies here is something we call something extra, based on a quote that says, an anonymous quote that says, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little something extra. So we always strive to deliver something extra to our clients. So here, Michael, we've got something extra point.
Yeah, we do. Starting with activities. A trend out there is the user experience the attendees want, and maybe it's some of the millennials driving this, but I don't think it's all of that. There's more information available at our fingertips, and we want choices. We want choices, and then we want those personal choices to be personal at the destination on site. So it's the right size equipment, or the right size or the right activity choice. For food, we want similarly, we want local food. We want to eat with the local folks. Of course, we want it to be high grade and exceptional, but we want to eat local ingredients. At breaks, we want to recommend, instead of a coffee and donut break these days, local fruit with the local fruit on display and a blender to make a smoothie, maybe as a fun and creative option. For hotels, love the pop in some of these brands like Kimpton. I know we're using them for a program upcoming in Grand Cayman, the new Seafire. They've got one I mentioned earlier in Austin. Last week was in Rome with the site plus MPI Global Conference at the beautiful Waldorf Astoria, a Hilton brand. I mentioned St. Regis. There's a lot of lifestyle brands, Hard Rock that is doing well, offering these lifestyle experience that really appeal to those looking for a more personalized venue to hang their head.
I would encourage all the planners here to ask their CSM contacts at these hotels about unique spaces that may exist in the hotels. These hotels have become very adept at carving out unique spaces, whether it's a rooftop or a private lawn or a pool that may be available after they close it down. But ask our partners what's new, what's something cool they've done. Let's really tap into their expertise.
Yeah, ultimately it's about not providing what they could find in a local travel brochure, right, Mike?
Yeah.
So here we've got 2018 destinations. I believe this is straight out of the site index.
Yes.
There's some great additional slides there that demonstrate outbound from each area where the business is going. We try to capture that here in just one slide for you. But North America, Western Europe, Caribbean, the most used regions, and all post an increase in 2017.
Yeah, and I think our actionable suggestion here is just pick a new destination. With incentive travel especially, it seems many corporations get to where they have a certain routine or pattern that they do with their corporate trips. I know I was talking to one prospect who they go to Hawaii every year, and Hawaii is one of my favorite places on the planet, as Michael knows, but I was shocked to hear one of their VP of sales said, I love Hawaii, but really Hawaii every year for a club trip? So, they had gotten to where, they were ready for something new. So we say pick a new destination. If you're going to Hawaii, go to the Caribbean. If you're doing a beach, go to the mountain. If you're doing something domestic, go to Europe. Mix up things, mix up brands, just do those things. That can be the easiest way to create a new experience, is picking a new destination. Certainly once there, you can work on creative experiences and creative food and beverage options, but a new destination is probably the easiest way. So we've stayed right on our budgeted time, gone fast. We wanted to allow some time for Q&A. We've got a couple questions coming in. While they're coming in, I'd like to say again, thank you to our friends at Maui Gym who offer a really great on-site gifting experience.
They do.
We've used them, and the product is always appreciated, and it fits very nicely and compactly back in people's luggage. And then also, all of the research links that we've quoted here can be found on our blog at gobrightspot.com/blog. We'll go ahead and for everybody that attended the call, we'll PDF these slides and send them to you so you can have them available. And with that, maybe we'll look here at some Q&A. Let's see. We had one question coming in here on the stats about, are we including Mexico in North America? And I believe on that slide from Site Index that Mexico is there. So good question. A great destination. Us being here in Dallas, we do a lot of Mexico. Let's see. We have one question from somebody about our feelings about the recent martial law that was declared in Montego Bay in Jamaica. And that's really interesting. It was a little unsettling when that news first came out, but when we drilled a little deeper, we were a little more relieved as we got more of the facts. Jamaica probably could have done a better job with their PR, but within their government, they have a need to declare that state of emergency readiness to deploy more assets and more resources. So in some ways, it's like when we change our USA Homeland Security warning, if it goes to a slightly different color, that can deploy more resources. So to hear our partners in Jamaica say, it was necessary for freeing up more resources, and they were quick to remind us that their crime rate against tourists was less than 0.01%. So incredibly low. I think like most of us that live in metropolitan cities, we're very comfortable in our city, but there's probably certain neighborhoods in our own cities that we may not go to. And, there's violent crime occurring in every major city. Let's see here. Scanning our questions. Those are, let's see. Okay, we got a question about Zika. That's interesting. Michael, are you hearing anything more about Zika? It feels a little bit like something in the rearview mirror for.
It does. No, I have not heard about it in probably about a year now.
Yeah. Of course, Brazil probably smells like bug spray now, but
Yeah.
I think all these places do a real good job with their spraying, but that feels like that really, really died down. It was interesting even when it came up. I feel like our industry, every 2 to 3 years, there's something that pops up like this. I can remember, there was H1N1 was one, swine flu. There's always been things that kind of come and go that drive that concern. But great question about Zika.
Yeah, I'd probably add, Mike, just because we're not hearing about it doesn't mean we've stopped preparing for it.
Right.
It's still we're still providing that additional bug spray and disclaimers and pointing them to the cdc.gov website, which is always updated with the latest information on an issue like that. But having that preparedness, I think, is still important.
Yeah. If we were adding more points to this, planning for disruption would probably be point number 7 that has become a trend. There's always something disruptive that happens. While concerns of terrorism have calmed, we live in a world where there's always a terrorist event occurring. There's always changes in travel warnings by destinations, suppliers that change. So planning for disruption. Let's see. Let's see if we have any more questions. Let's see. And one of our colleagues here has used a random number generator and identified our gift card winner. And if Bobby from Boston Scientific is on the call, congratulations. You're the gift card winner. We'll be following up with you separately. Again, thank everybody for their time. We will email you these slides. Certainly, Michael and I are always big believers being good corporate citizens in this industry, so we're always available to answer a question or give a comment, even to people that are not our customers or clients. We just believe in philosophically in helping others. So with that, thank you very much for your time today. I hope this was helpful, and stay tuned for further Bright Spot webinars during the course of the year. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.